Welcome back to another class. Today we're going to do a sailboat in watercolors. Let's get started. For today's class, you're going to need a pencil, a flat brush, and a round brush. You're also going to need watercolor paper, but if you don't have any, that's okay, and your watercolors. Also not shown here is a cup of water. Let's go. Make sure you tape down your paper. Watercolor can warp the paper. We're going to start with our horizon line somewhere in the middle of your paper. I'll be drawing a little harder so that you guys can see in the video, but you want to go ahead and draw as light as you possibly can. Once you have your horizon line drawn, we're going to add a dot about right here. Then go ahead and measure 3 fingers and add a dot on the other side. We're going to go ahead and add a line in between these 2 dots, making sure that the part that's underneath the horizon line is slightly longer than the one above the horizon line. We're going to convert our dots into number ones. And then we're going to connect the bottom parts of our 3 lines with 2 straight lines. This will be the front of our boat. Now we're going to go ahead and connect the top part of our 3 lines with 2 straight lines. We're going to elongate our center line, and connect that point with our 2 side lines. You're going to erase the horizon line that falls inside our boat. Next, we are going to elongate our center line all the way to the top of our paper. All the way until we touch it. That's going to be our mast. We're going to go ahead and add the window of our boat. You're going to go ahead and add 2 diagonal lines with a frowny face to connect them. You can see we're already starting to see a window. We're going to add a dot in the center of our line and at the very top. And then one slightly lower, about a finger's width. You're going to create a belly connecting these 2 dots, making the weight of the belly towards the lower side of your line. So belly right there. Then about right here, we're going to add a straight line that goes out and to the left. We're going to add another belly. Now this one is going to be curvier at the top. And that's going to be our sail. Now we're going to add the other side. We're going to add a dot at the bottom, and from the very top, we're going to add a straight line down. Same thing on the other side. This one's going to touch the sail and stop. Then we're going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dots, and we're going to turn those into V's. Think of the letter V. It's going to dip down and come back up. dip down and come back up. We're going to go ahead and add a sun in the sky. And we're going to start our clouds. Now, our clouds don't have to be the same. I'm making mine as organic as possible. What that means is they don't follow any particular shape, since clouds are all different. You are more than welcome to make your clouds as best as you see fit. Just try to keep them in the same spot for balancing the composition. I'm going to add my last one in the corner, left top corner. I'm going to do my dots just to keep an idea of how big I want it. That looks good. Next, we're going to add a small triangle for where I want to put the glare of the boat in the water. So we're going to basically create a long triangle almost to the end bottom part of our paper and make that really light. That's it. It's time to paint. Now that we are done drawing, let's go ahead and move on to painting. We are going to start with the wet on wet technique. That means we're going to dip our brush in water and we are going to go straight onto our paper with just water. We have to dampen the area we are going to paint first before we apply our color. It just allows for a little more flow with our pigment. So we're going to go ahead and start in this right corner on our sky. We're going to go ahead and dip our paintbrush in light blue, making sure we don't grab too much pigment. We do want it to be fairly light, and we are going to start applying. See how I'm not pressing hard? I'm just letting the brush glide. I'm not going back and forth. I'm not scrubbing with my brush. You want to make sure with watercolor you keep a really, really light pressure on your hand and on the brush in order to not create any wrinkles in our paper. You can also, just like I did, dip your brush in a little bit of water if you feel like the pigment is not flowing enough. When you're doing watercolor, I think the easiest way to approach a large area would be to do the outline of the objects that need to stay clean and then work around the rest. As you see here, I'm still doing the wet on wet technique, but I am not cleaning my brush in between as it's not necessary since I'm using the same color. I'm going to work rather quickly through this section, but please feel free to pause the video and take as long as you need. A couple of tips while doing watercolor. You don't want to oversaturate or use too much water in each area. It could cause the paper to start crumbling, and you don't want to use too little water. If you find that your paint is not flowing and it's dragging and leaving streaks, that means that you need more water. If your paint is just sitting in a pool of water on your paper, then that clearly means you're using too much. You want to move rather quickly and then slow down when you get to the edges of any object, for example, the clouds. Just have fun with it. There's really no way of doing it correctly, especially with watercolor. You kind of want to leave the layers to speak for themselves. So just go ahead and have fun with it. You pick and choose where you want areas lighter and where you want areas darker. Now we're going to go ahead and take a more aqua blue for the ocean. First, we're going to make sure we do a wet on wet technique. No rhythm or rhyme to this one. Just go ahead and dampen the entire bottom half of your paper. And rather quickly, we're going to go ahead and back and forth. A couple of techniques I want to point out when you're using watercolor. Do not sketch unless you're going for a really textured painting. You want to try to get to A to B in one stroke. What that means is you want to try to minimize lifting your brush and breaking the line up into smaller lines. It's not necessary. With the ocean, it's okay if it's not perfect as it was with the sky, because we do want to show a little bit of movement here. Also, the triangle that we drew at the end of our drawing portion, we're going to go ahead and cover that completely, as we can still see through the watercolor at this point with our pencil. You want to go for a light coat. Again, watercolor is layering, so we don't want to go too dark too fast. You can always go darker. You can't go lighter with watercolor, which is one of the reasons why it's a harder medium to master. Alright, so I'm almost done with my ocean. Again, go ahead and pause the video if you need more time, and I'll meet you when we're done. Now that my sky is dry, I'm going to go ahead and go back and add some shadows underneath my clouds. This part is completely optional. I do, however, believe that it does give the clouds a little bit of more character. I am using my round brush, and I am lining up the tip of my brush to the pencil line and working underneath my pencil line. So the shadows in my painting are going to be underneath my clouds. I am not using a darker color of blue. I am simply using the same blue we used for the sky with a little less water. I went ahead and cleaned my brush off. We're going to go ahead and grab our brown. We're going to start painting our boat. You're going to paint the left side of the mast, the side that we did not paint in the sky blue. You see how I'm trying to go from point A to B in one stroke. I want it to be nice and clean, nice and controlled. We are using our round brush since this is a smaller detail. Try to use a little bit of water. I did not do a wet on wet technique. I simply wet my brush a little bit and went into my pigment. You can go ahead and grab red once you're done with your brown, and we are going to do the first layer of our sail. I'm going to start from the top and drag it, if you can, all the way down to create a nice clean outline, and then we're going to fill it in. If you feel more comfortable outlining the entire sail and then filling in, feel free to do that as well. Both techniques are correct, it's just a matter of preference. This one we do want it a little bit more opaque, so all you're going to do is scrub the pigment a little longer so that the brush can pick up as much color as it possibly can. This one you do want it rather opaque, which means less see-through and thicker. That looks good for the first layer. I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush. Now remember the triangle that we set in the ocean. We're going to go ahead and start adding the color down there as well. You are going to move your brush in a zigzag formation. Try not to lift your brush too much. This movement can come from your elbow, or it can also come from your wrist, however is easier for you. The only thing I recommend is that you use the tip of your brush rather than the body of your brush. As you move down the triangle, you're going to go ahead and make the red portion smaller and smaller until you reach a point. A couple of things when you're doing line work. The back of your brush should be pointing to the ceiling. not resting on your wrist. Go ahead and clean the red off your brush. We are now going to move on to our sun. This one's super easy. Just put some yellow on your brush. You see, I'm really picking up some pigment here so that I can only do one layer. And you're going to go ahead and scrub that into your sun. It's okay if it's not completely the same. I actually prefer it to have a little bit of dimension. You're now going to go ahead and pick up some brown. We are going to add the brown to our reflection. Again, zigzag motion from your elbow or your wrist using just the tip of your brush, making sure that the back of the brush is pointing to the ceiling. The best way to get really thin lines is moving your brush as soon as it makes contact with the paper. Don't put any pressure on that brush. Really try to hover it over your paper as you move. It'll give you really nice thin lines, and it'll really help with the idea of creating the illusion of a reflection of the boat in the water. As you can see, I'm still allowing the blue of the ocean to shine through those lines. That is pivotal for it to look like a reflection. Otherwise, it'll just look like, I don't know, another boat. Now we're going to go ahead and add some dark blue, or basically the same color we used from the ocean the first time, just adding a second layer. It'll always appear darker, as I said. Watercolor is a layering medium. You're going to go ahead and darken your horizon line as well. Paintbrush to the ceiling. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more water to my brush. And now I'm going to add tiny little lines throughout my ocean. This is our second layer, so our second layer is not going to cover the entire paper. We're more so doing little lines to create the illusion of motion. No pressure. You can actually play with your pressure. See how it looks when you press down on some parts of the line and ease up the pressure on some other parts of the line. Just make sure that you're moving quick enough so that your lines don't look like they are stagnant. Now we're going to go ahead and add a layer of blue in between our red and brown reflection. Making sure that you drag the lines out every once in a while, almost to like cut the reflection so that it looks like it's in the water rather than on top of the water. Now we're going to go back to our brown and we're going to add a shadow on our sail. You're going to start from the top and outline the outer edge of your sail, so the one that's furthest away from the boat. You're going to go all the way down. We want the brown to be a little dark, but not darker than the red. Then we're going to add a couple of lines in the right hand side of our sail, and then a line that crosses right through the center. I'm adding a triangle of brown on the top half of my sail and dragging it down. It's just to create a little bit of character to our sail. Once you're done with your sail color, you're going to go ahead and rinse off your brush. And we are now at the black part of our painting. We do want the black to be very opaque, so we're going to go ahead and scrub quite a bit. And we're going to add some black lines towards the bottom of our painting. Remember, paintbrush to the ceiling, no pressure, and it's very organic, so you can add these as much or as little as you want. I'm just basically going on the lines that were slightly darker blue. I'm just going to go ahead and add some more shadow to those lines just to create more contrast in the water. You can follow along with me, or you can do your own thing. It's your painting. It's time to paint the sail. First, I suggest you outline your sail. Everything that was in pencil is now going to be black watercolor. Very important. Again, paintbrush to the ceiling, and we're moving our brush as soon as it makes contact with our paper. We're going to paint the left side of our sail very, very black. All this time we have been using the round brush. The round brush is the ideal brush for line work. You want to make sure that this side is very, very dark. The other side, we're going to leave it like a dark gray. Now we're going to go ahead and do the other side. Make sure you dip your brush in water to thin out the black that was left on there. One coat will be enough for this side. And now it's time to outline. Everything that's left in pencil, you are going to go ahead and outline it in black. I'm going to speed this up just so that the video doesn't take too long. Just remember, paintbrush to the ceiling, using the tip of the brush, and no pressure at all. For the outline of the sail, we're only going to do the inside line, meaning the one that's closest to the boat, in black. The remainder will be without outline. So far, we've done our sailboat, we've done our mast, we've done the 5 lines on the interior, and the interior of our sail. I'm doing my clouds with the little bit of black that was left on my brush. I simply dipped my brush in water and did not reapply any pigment at all. Think of it like you're using a half-washed brush. Every time you dip your brush in the water, you are adding more water than pigment. And these came out pretty dark, but typically I would want these to be quite lighter. We don't want it to look like it's raining. Here we go. This is a good one. So here, this is kind of the tone you're looking for, where it's like a shadow, but it's not overwhelmingly gray. We still want it to look nice outside. Once you're done with your clouds, we are officially done with our painting. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed today's class, please consider subscribing, and I would love to see how your paintings came out, so please go ahead and tag me on artyfartsyrachel on Instagram. Once your paper is dry, you can go ahead and take an eraser to the clouds to get rid of the top pencil line. It'll really create a finished look to your painting, and we hope to see you next week. Next week we will be doing a 2 point perspective Rubik's Cube. Hope to see you then.